Hey, and welcome back to Game Talk. I'm your host, David Beyond. Today I'm joined by Connor.
Hey, guys.
And Mike.
Hello.
There's a couple things I want to talk about today. First, and probably biggest, being the announcement of the 40 series cards. I was going to say 4,000, but I guess technically both are true. But the 40 series cards, NVIDIA has announced them. And I must say, time really flies, because I very distinctly remember talking about the 30 series cards when they got announced.
Yeah, 2
on
years
this very show. Yeah. So obviously that was in the throes of COVID, right? Or was it before COVID?
It was in the throes of COVID, I believe.
Yeah.
I think it was mid-COVID that I decided to build a PC.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember that was one of our video episodes where you were playing Flight Simulator.
Yep.
But yeah, it's just crazy to me that it's already here. But yeah, 40 series cards, and let me tell you, I feel like the reception has not been as warm as when they announced the 30 series cards. Would you guys agree with that?
Hop in, guys. We're gonna go lose our market share.
Oh yeah, no. I own NVIDIA stock, and it's been not pretty lately.
Yeah, I mean, the rumors were bad for the 40 series cards. The rumors made them look bad already.
It's it strikes me as a little tone deaf. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting from NVIDIA. They're just not reading the room right now, right? With obviously for crypto, proof of stake being more widely adopted, mining being more increasingly obsolete, right? The prices of the 30 series cards plummeting. They come out here with these very highly priced, in my opinion, options for the 40 series, right? So the 4080 comes in two flavors, a 12 gigabyte model and a 16 gigabyte model. And the 12 gigabyte model is all but a 4070, but in name. But the pricing, right? So the 12 gigabyte model is $899. The 16 gigabyte model is $1199. And then there's also a 4090, which is the high-end option, obviously. And that is, trying to find a price here. Yeah, 4090 is $1,600. So, I guess I'm personally, right, I'm totally content with my 3070 Ti. It took me forever to find one. But, as someone who, I guess as more PC-centric people, you two, how do you feel about these cards?
I think the value proposition's bad on them. I just can't imagine needing more than a 3080 Ti. And then they're saying, hey, our 3080 12 gig is 2 to 4 times as strong as a 3080.
I feel like NVIDIA's kind of throwing out the budget grade or lower end market and just saying we're gonna strictly market to people with thousands of dollars to throw at video cards.
It does feel that way, and it's annoying because NVIDIA does have some killer features that I like, but I also don't need they keep talking about 8K gaming. Nobody's doing 8K gaming. Nobody even has an 8K TV.
Most people aren't even doing 4K currently.
Yeah, I have no interest in 4K. I do
this is going to be
1440.
It feels like the 40 series is NVIDIA's attempt to really capture the high-end PC master race, self-gratifying group of the PC gaming community.
And in some part, I am part of that group. And I'm somebody who could justify buying a 4090 if I wanted it.
Connor, you're not part of that group. Trust me, that group is probably the most insufferable people you'll ever meet.
Yeah, I definitely used to be that. I in high school spent a lot of time complaining to my friends for making me play on console at their house. I'm not proud of it.
Yeah, you mentioned that on the show before.
That group is kind of evolved into this, hey, look at how much money I've dumped into my PC and how many lights and
But I'm somebody who cares a lot about performance and has the budget to get a 4090. I just don't I don't see why I would.
Yeah,
from my perspective, right, I guess where gaming is right now, I feel like the 30 series cards haven't even really been challenged yet by a game that really pushes the envelope, right?
When I was running my 3080, 1440p, 144 frames per second, I can't think of any games I had where I wasn't hitting that.
Maybe Cyberpunk 2077?
Yeah, but that's because it was a bad game, not because it was it wasn't your graphics card's fault.
Yeah, but I just in a general sense, I feel like we're not there yet. and NVIDIA's kind of just being okay, here are these cards that take it even a level further when we're not even at the 30 level yet.
There is precedent for
I mean, don't get me wrong, right? It's cool to see the envelope being pushed, but like, it when NVIDIA comes out here and says, I think the CEO or whatever said something like the era of like cheap graphics cards is over.
They were saying
I'm definitely paraphrasing there. Declining prices
and they're
is
just
over.
Wrong. That's just
and
not
that is
true.
that is a total misread of the room currently.
I just think what excites me about this is that AMD finally has, like, FSR 2.0 has been pretty impressive. AMD has this opportunity to really come in and clean up. But AMD is still missing some killer features, like some of the AI processing stuff that NVIDIA has. NVIDIA's proprietary hardware level encoding that it uses for like game stream and stuff. That's what I use. If I were to switch from, I'm using a 1070 in my computer right now because I was having issues with my 3080 and had to RMA it. But I still, on my 1070, I can use that hardware level encoding that NVIDIA has to stream stuff to my Steam Deck and have a very good experience.
Yeah,
you can't do that on an AMD card. Excellent. It doesn't work as well.
I use hardware encoding off my 1070 to stream everything now.
Yeah, and it just works really well.
It's lower need. I don't need to worry about overloading my CPU when I can just rely on my graphics card to do it.
Right, and AMD has that, but it's not nearly as good.
Yeah.
And they don't have other streamer tools like AI backgrounds and stuff. You can't do that on a 1070 anyway, but on the 20 and 30 series you could.
If AMD's hardware encoding goes in, I would strongly go towards AMD as a graphics card company, but they don't have any good hardware encoding.
So I didn't even know this hardware encoding was a thing. So
yeah, it's a valuable thing if you're streaming games. If you're not streaming games, then it's basically worthless to you. It doesn't matter.
It's really good if you're doing anything video or streaming related.
Yeah.
So how do you guys feel about... I mean, like, they did throw a couple bullet points out there to try and, like, bolster the value of this release. Things like DLSS 3.0, right? Like, they're saying that, like... In some of the examples they gave, they were like, yeah, you could see up to like a 500% increase.
Yeah, DLSS 3.0 is interesting because it, in my opinion, it shouldn't even be called DLSS because it's a wholly different technology. It's essentially like, you know a bit about TVs, Ahmed, like frame interpolation, like motion smoothing.
Okay, yeah.
It's that, except on a TV, you know, it's a budget version of that because they don't care about latency. And NVIDIA is saying that they can use their AI to do that real time. So they're increasing your frame rate. But I don't know how valuable that is really because it's not going to actually increase responsiveness. And that's why high frame rates feel so good, is that your input, you feel the response immediately. And they can't raise that with motion smoothing. So DLSS 3.0 is cool. And I bet it feels better than not having it. But I don't feel like I'm going to miss it too much. And like, if I'm already hitting 144 frames per second in my games with the, you know, normal plain old DLSS, I don't need it.
I mean, I just from my perspective, it seems like the use case mostly for DLSS is if you want to crank like the bells and whistles up and that tanks your frame rate down to like, I guess, you know, the example they have on their website, the first example they have is a game running at 22 frames per second with ray tracing on, right? But once DLSS 3 specifically is turned on, the FPS jumps from 22 to 85 with ray tracing on.
Dude, that's going to feel so bad, though. I mean, I might be wrong. It might feel great. But in my head, I'm thinking, like, if I understand the technology properly, and this is, I guess I'm throwing them under the bus right now. I'm citing Linus Tech Tips. That's where I saw the technology explained. And I don't think it would feel any better than 22 frames per second. It would feel...
Yeah, I mean, I just wouldn't really know without trying it, yeah. I mean, they have, like, a first look, like, see it in action on their website. And I guess you can, like, play a video to see it, but it's not the same as, like, playing a game.
Yeah, a video's not going to cut it. You need to feel it. I don't know. And also, this is maybe me, like, kind of falling for marketing a little bit, but AMD has been doing a lot of work in lowering TDP on their stuff, and NVIDIA is doing the opposite. I think the lowest recommended power supply you can use on a 4080
it's absurd.
850 watts. I think I have 850 watts in my PC, but like, if I have to upgrade my power supply to buy your new graphics card, I don't want to do that. I'm just not going to do it. Like,
oh yeah, these things are super power
and like
hungry.
that's going to hit your wallet immediately if you have to buy a new power supply, but that's also going to hit your wallet. Like if you're a heavy gamer,
Yeah.
you're going to literally be burning more electricity if you like. And that doesn't matter to us here in West Virginia very much. Our electricity is extremely cheap. But if you're in like Europe right now, that sucks. Like, power's
Right, yeah.
not cheap over there.
Yeah, I don't know, like, and obviously, you know, like, I saw this and I was just like, okay, this is neat that it's, like, new tech and everything, pushing the graphics envelope, as always, but, like, I'm not really, the price did nothing for me at all, and even if it was lower, I mean, I just built a PC, I'm totally fine, but
Exactly,
I went online to basically just take the temperature, and everyone was hyper against this 40 series announcement. I've not seen consensus like this really before.
Were we doing the show when the 20 series got announced?
I feel like we must have been, right? When did it get announced?
Because the 20 series also got kind of... People weren't super hard on it, but the 20 series got a lot of blowback for being expensive, and other than adding ray tracing, it wasn't a very big performance increase. But I only pointed out because, like, the 10 series was incredible. Like, people really liked it. The 20 series kind of sucked. The 30 series was, like, a huge deal, and everybody really liked it. The 40 series
the 30 series was huge.
I'm starting to see a pattern, you know?
I mean, like, I don't know. Like, they can't all be winners, I guess.
Yeah, it just seems like every other release from NVIDIA is just kind of mid. It's just not worth getting. But maybe I'm just in that, like, you know, I bought on 10, so I didn't need to buy on 20. And I bought on 30, so I don't need to buy on 40.
Yeah, that's that definitely how I feel right now. Like,
yeah. But I also it is a hard sell to buy a 40 series right now when, like, crypto mining is dead. 3080s can be bought for like $600. You do need to watch out to make sure that they, like, were taken care of, because a friend of mine was telling me that, like, a lot of stock 3080s, just their thermals were terrible, and so long mining might have hurt them. But you know, your mileage may vary. Some of them were fine. Like, I think EVGA cards were fine. Any of those you buy will probably be okay. It was, I think, gigabyte cards that are a problem.
Little tangent I want to take here. EVGA basically terminated the relationship with NVIDIA and announced they're not going to be making any more graphics cards, which is, I mean, a shame, right? Like, I just recently got into PC gaming, but the graphics card I was able to get my hands on is an EVGA 3070 Ti, and it's very, very nice.
Yeah.
It's like definitely like the centerpiece of my entire build. And it's a shame they won't be making graphics cards anymore. I did some research, right, looking into different manufacturers, and I definitely liked what EVGA had going on.
EVGA is good. Asus is good, but they're more
expensive. Asus is good too, yeah.
Gigabyte is pretty bad. I actually got a Gigabyte motherboard, and I cannot really recommend Gigabyte.
Do you have any insight into, like, why they might have done something like this? Like, it seemed like a very, like, almost like a public falling out.
So there are two things. One of them is apparently NVIDIA was just horrible to work with. That was, like, what I was hearing the day of. But now that I've seen the pricing of the 40 series, you know, it's probably that, but also EVGA might have seen the writing on the wall, and they're just like, this gen's not going to be profitable, so we might as well drop now. And I think that's likely. I don't think people are going to buy 40 series cards, like, outside of, you know.
Yeah, but most of EVGA's revenue is graphics cards. I did a little digging and looked into that. I was like, that's a huge, massive cut into their profits now that they're not doing this. And I feel like the only reason they must have done this was for, like, very, very strong anti-NVIDIA sentiment for one reason or another. Because they're literally hurting themselves just to, like, basically flip off NVIDIA.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, maybe they have a plan.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm excited to see what AMD has to counter this, though, because I don't actually own my 3080. That was a loaner from a friend, and I was about to buy it, but I kind of want to see what AMD brings to the table before I buy a 30 series.
Yeah, the saga of you buying a new graphics card has been ongoing for literal years.
By the time it's over, because I still have that scam artist funny. Still has my money tied up right now.
Oh, the person that was getting it to you?
Yeah.
That ended up being a scam?
I was able to get some... No, it wasn't a scam. He was just an idiot. He overpromised and underdelivered. He owes people... This is an aside. If you see Black Swan Gaming or OG 10K Gaming, don't buy anything from them. They got me my processor just fine. He's not malicious. He's just an idiot, as far as I can tell. Like, he sold a ton of 30 series cards, and a lot of people got them, but a lot of people didn't get them. I've seen people... I feel like an idiot because this guy owes me a little over $1,000, and that feels bad.
Yeah, that's not insignificant.
There are people on the Discord for that company that are complaining that he owes them tens of thousands of dollars worth of hardware. And if you spend tens of thousands of dollars on hardware without like proof or like without, you're an idiot.
If you're trying to do that, you got to walk into a Micro Center or something.
Yeah.
So you can actually touch it. There
were people who wanted to set up mining rigs, and they're done. Like, even if they got their cards tomorrow, they'd be worthless to them. They're just out $30,000. It's absurd. But this guy just, I don't know. He started a new company called Black Swan Gaming, which is sketchy. He has a court date. It's like October 23rd of 2023, unfortunately. So God knows if I'll ever get my money back.
Not things you want to hear when you're waiting for a product.
Yeah.
And or a refund.
Yeah, I mean, by 2023, the 30 series is going to be ancient history, essentially. Like, that sucks. So I think I'm just I was able to get $700 back through a chargeback on a credit card. Unfortunately, I paid half of it on a debit card, so he still owes me about $800. And I cannot get that money back
sucks.
without him doing it. And he has no money because his life imploded on him because he's an idiot. So here we are. That's a little tangent from my life. So I'm thinking about spending my $700 that I got back on a 3080, which is all I ever wanted in the first place.
Yeah, and that's a totally reasonable price for a 3080 as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, my buddy was going to sell it to me for like $600 because that's what they're going for on eBay right now. And that wouldn't bother me at all.
What a difference, right? Like that you could have doubled that easily. Like even a year ago.
Was the original price I paid. It was $700 or $800 was the original price I put down for a 3080 in 2020.
Let me tell you, I paid more than that for a 3070 Ti because I bought it like when they were insanely, scarce and like highly priced. So
yeah,
I'm the fool for that.
And it sucks. Like, while we're talking about the prices and everything, it looked for him, and it kind of has. You can get a 20 series card like affordably, or you can build a PC price competitive per performance. I would say with like a PS5 or an Xbox One, like you could get a 20 series card probably, maybe even a 3070 right now, and build a PC that is a little bit more expensive than a PS5 or an Xbox One, and have a better experience. But it'll have to be one you've cobbled together, and that's like the PC dream for me. Like, you pay a little bit more. You make that money back in Steam sales, maybe, and like you get a better experience. Even better is like when the prices are real low and you can build one. You can match a console for the same price as a console, but I don't think we're there right now.
Well, with the plummeting prices, I feel like it's maybe inevitable if the trend continues.
Yeah,
so
we'll see. But it is a hard sell right now to suggest a PC over an Xbox or a PS5 unless you're just a guy who likes PCs like me. And that wasn't always the case.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. Obviously, there's a case to be made for your Steam Deck, but that's kind of a console in itself. So
that in the calculus right now. I mean, the Steam Deck is where I've been doing most of my gaming the past 2 weeks. I haven't really touched my PC a whole lot.
Yeah, 4070 packs roughly 3090 Ti levels of performance. That's a crazy jump.
Yeah, and
man.
I guess
like I guess I would just like to. I don't think I would ever buy it, but I definitely would like to see it. I just don't know anyone that would buy it for me to to check it out from.
And I don't know what I could see myself changing my tune if they announced some killer thing, but I just don't know what that would have to be.
Cyberpunk 2078.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Side note though, like apparently Cyberpunk 2077's concurrent max has now surpassed The Witcher 3's concurrent max on
Steam.
Steam.
Had a huge resurgence since the anime.
Because of that anime, right?
Yeah, I watched a bit of the anime. It's fine.
I hear it's very good. I don't know if I'm
say that. It's Studio Trigger, so it's gorgeous, but I just kind of think it's okay. It's very dark, and I kind of didn't want that. So I started watching it.
My roommate's like, you gotta watch.
Yeah, I've been hearing very good things about it, just by word of mouth. But yeah, I don't know. One of these days, I'll play Cyberpunk 2077 when all the DLC is out and when all the patches are done. But not until then.
My problem with like Cyberpunk as a genre, I think, is that like it's a lot of like watching people get raked over the coals by capitalism. And if I wanted that, I'd talk to any of my friends. Like, I just don't get the
But
appeal.
but are your friends getting raked over the coals by capitalism in a cool futuristic setting?
Yeah. Or we can watch them get raked over the coals by capitalism, but they have cool eye implants, so they don't have to look at a screen.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. The aesthetic and like the setting of cyberpunk stuff has always interested me. It's just for this particular game.
It's worth watching the first episode, but the premise of the show, as far as I can tell, is can you imagine the horrors of a world without universal health care?
Oh man.
Actually, I can.
Clearly this show wasn't made in the US, so
Yeah.
but anyways, yeah, so the 40 series cards, right? So like I was interested in hearing what you guys had to say, but it seems like you guys are kind of in the same headspace I am, where it's just kind of like a meh.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not mad that they exist, but
Yeah.
I do not anticipate anyone I know having one.
Yeah, I feel like
this
it's
is-
going to be something people flaunt online. It's like, I got a 4090 or whatever. Look at you, peasant. You only have a 1070.
Even the 30 series cards were kind of like a high-end, like enthusiast item, and the 40 series cards seemed like maybe 1% of that high end would be interested in that, like the high end of the high end.
I was willing to pay $1,500 at some point for I think it was it was either $1,200 or $1,500. My math is rough right now, but over $1,000 for a 3080 Ti. But the idea of paying $900 for a 4080 12 gigabyte is repulsive to me, and I don't fully understand where the disconnect is there for me. But it definitely.
I mean, I guess the value has dropped. You know.
Yeah,
like
I think it was because you couldn't
the
buy
ebb and
any
flow
graphics
of
cards back then.
Yeah, like
And
there
now
was
you
a
can't.
scarcity then. Everyone wanted it. The 30 series cards made a statement when they were announced. Like
I was also
they
spending a lot
really-
more time on my computer then because COVID.
yeah, it was in the middle of COVID. Like everything kind of worked together to where like everyone wanted a 30 series card, and like NVIDIA, I feel like they came out like expecting the same sort of vibe, and it was just totally different this time around, and they misread the room, like I said earlier.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Yeah, they just don't. They didn't read the market very well, and it's wild that you and I can seemingly read a market better than people that have billions of dollars on the line. But
I don't know. Like I feel like at a certain point when you're in the throes at like a company like NVIDIA, you sort of just have to believe that it'll work, right? Like you're gonna believe it works until you make it work. I guess that's their sort of mentality, but like I don't know. It's a tough sell, I think,
there's
right
also
now,
some
especially.
argument, I think Linus Tech Tips also pointed this out. They're not necessarily like killing you like with markup on these. Apparently, they're very expensive to produce as well. But
Yeah,
that doesn't help. Like I
guess just like no one needed this.
Like I didn't
like
need
there was
this one
no
to be twice as strong as a 3090. Like,
exactly. There was no like. I mean, again, it is cool to push the envelope, but like you could have waited a year or even two. I feel like and let the 30 series simmer a little bit. Like there was no need to like for this breakneck pace.
Yeah, I mean, if I could have bought a new graphics card, like a 4070 that was the same power as a 3090 was, for a 70 tier pricing, I'd be like, yeah, like sign me up for that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh well,
it just seems silly to me.
I'm curious to see like once these things finally come out, like is our kind of like mental model of how this is going to play out actually how it's going to play out, or will scalpers get a hold of them, create artificial demand? I don't know. Whole rigmarole happens again, but like I don't think it will. Like I feel like there's a lot less interest in these cards than there were for the 3070 cards. So. When do you guys anticipate we'll hear from an AMD, right? Can't be far off.
It's usually later.
Yeah. But it's kind of like a, like a Sony Microsoft thing. If one moves, eventually that means the other's bound to move within the same sort of
if I'm AMD
time period.
right now, I'm pretty comfortable. I'm keeping my mouth shut. Like
yeah, let NVIDIA soak up all the bad vibes and then come in with like
we could have a real $299
killer alternative. Yeah.
here.
Yeah. They're poised to do that. I guess we'll see if they do.
Yeah.
All right. Any other thoughts on the 40 series cards? All right. So that was one of the, I guess, the hardware announcements that occurred. The other was PlayStation VR 2. Now, PSVR 2 was already sort of announced, right? And we already got a load of the specs. But now this unit is actually getting into people's hands, like for previews and stuff. Too. And oh my god, that trailer! Like the marketing team that put that together deserves maybe a raise and a pat on the back.
Yeah.
Like that was a very good sell.
No,
for the
it was
PSVR
enough
2.
to make me sad that I know that there's not going to be any official support for PSVR on PC.
Yet at launch. Let's qualify that, because I feel like with they have not said anything, but like look at how PlayStation is treating PC gamers right now.
It's
like
the hardware though. Sony, yeah, I don't know. Sony doesn't. They're probably not making much money on the hardware, so I don't know that they would want to open the hardware up for people like, because letting me play PSVR on PC is not the same as bringing Uncharted to PC. It's more like letting me play Halo on an Xbox, or letting me play Halo on a PS5, or get Game Pass on a PS5. Like,
I don't think it's that extreme, right? Like, it's a PlayStation. It's PlayStation hardware that you could presumably hook up to your PC. That's not outside of the realm of imagination for me at this point in time, at least.
it just seems.
I don't know.
It seems like people don't like to make hardware that they're going to sell with no opportunity to make software sales based on it. And the opportunity is going to be limited. If the PSVR comes to PC, I'm going to be playing.
Yeah, I mean, like,
on it.
Yeah, but if Sony's clearly got a heavy software first-party investment into this thing too. Like, we're getting a Horizon game at launch, right? Like, we're getting all sorts of different. I presume Half-Life Alyx will also be on this thing.
Likely, yeah.
I don't think it's been announced, but I think it's inevitable at this point.
It'd be wild.
Like, you've got these games like the Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners, which is apparently like a full-fledged RPG that works well in VR. Like, all of these sorts of experiences are coming to PSVR 2, like, launch window around that time. So I think the software support is going to be there, and a lot of devs have stated that they are working on PSVR 2 upgrades for their PSVR 1 games.
Yeah, I was about to say that, because there is no backwards compatibility right now.
There is not, but
for hardware reasons. Like, they have a good excuse for it.
Yeah, I mean, like, let's be clear here. This headset makes the PSVR 1 looks like a cheap toy.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
It leagues.
Frankly, it makes most
above,
VR headsets look like cheap toys, as far as I can tell, with the only exception being, like, the Valve Index, and maybe, like, some of the higher-end ones, like the higher-end third-party ones that I don't know a ton about.
And that kind of leads into an interesting point about the price, which hasn't been revealed yet. We can get into that here in a bit. But, like, just thinking about the specs, right? Like you can see it all in that PSVR 2, like, I guess, announcement video or whatever you want to call it. Like, you've got eye tracking, foveated rendering, like 4K displays for each eye, right? OLED screen, like,
the foveated rendering's a big one. I don't know if I've said it on the show, but for a long time, my rule was that I was not going to buy. I had my Lenovo Explorer, I think is what it's called, and I barely use it these days. But my rule was that I was not going to buy another VR headset until either graphics cards were so good that it was unnecessary, which I guess we're kind of there, but also foveated rendering was like the big technology that I wanted to see, because it lowers the load graphically a ton.
Right, yeah. And then, like, the area you're looking at can be super high fidelity, and, like, your periphery can be whatever, and you won't even notice.
Also, I think was pretty impressive.
The field of view is very high. I forget the exact number.
Yeah, me too. I think it was
but
15 or something.
Yeah, that sounds right. Maybe, yeah. But, like, the frame rate can be up to 120, which obviously, like, the higher the better for VR, but I think as long as it's 90 plus, you're going to have a decent time in VR.
People are pretty comfortable at 80 these days. I think that's what the Quest runs at, but
80, okay.
90.
Yeah.
I can tell you, if you drop to 6, as somebody who's developed a VR game, oh my god, if you were at 60, you were not happy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely not. Yeah, it is interesting because, right, like, most video games, like, non-VR, like, if you get 60, I'd be, like, happy, right? Like, 60 is absolutely the target, the minimum. But, like, for VR, like, it's just, you'll be dizzy. Like, let's just put it that way. Like, you need higher refresh rate for VR.
I'm really hoping that this PSVR is, like, another big wave for VR, though, because
I'm hoping, like, it's
been bleak lately, like...
Yeah, it's been positioned to be that, and I hope it is that, right? Field of view is 110 degrees, by the way.
Okay, that's still pretty good.
What's interesting, though, so I did, like, look at a few people's impressions. One thing that is a huge quality of life thing that I don't know exists in VR's headsets, modern ones, right? Because I haven't tried a VR headset in forever. But one big problem with the PSVR 2 was just like, you get really sweaty and it's foggy,
Yes.
and like it's just sort of gross. There is now a vent implemented into the headset, so fogging is virtually completely gone. Like all of your like weird, gross, sweaty
Oh, like literal
fumes.
fog. I never had literal fog on like the lenses or anything. I just got sweaty.
Yeah, there was like a little condensation problem, like
Okay.
on the PSVR, but like apparently that is totally gone in the PSVR 2. The venting works very well. It does alleviate a lot of like the sort of cramped, claustrophobic, sweaty feeling you get when playing in VR. And apparently this headset is insanely light, right? Like it basically you can barely even feel it on your head. So the comfort seems to be totally there. And as far as the games goes, right? Like, so I'm talking from a PSVR 1 perspective, right? Like you put on that headset, right? And it doesn't look like you're inside of a PlayStation 4 game, right? Like the assets are sort of like lower quality, right? There's a sort of like blurriness to it, right?
Right.
And you can like even like in excellent PSVR games like Astrobot Rescue Mission, you can sort of see that effect. Apparently, the PSVR 2, according to the people that have tried it, it feels like you're basically just inside of a PS5 game. There's no compromise on resolution or like fidelity of assets or anything. Like,
I could see that with foveated rendering.
Yeah.
Because knowing where you're looking is a huge deal. That's a game changer. I bet developing it is hard, but
like the foveated rendering, yes, and also think about like the gameplay implications of eye tracking, specifically for like horror games.
oh my god,
How
yeah.
terrifying that could be! Like every time you blink, something gets closer to you, or some creepy stuff like that. You know, like
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a very exciting, like, this feels like a much bigger deal to me than the jump from even PS4 to PS5.
It's also
like
notably it's inside out tracking now, which is just gonna work better than
Right. No, like separate camera attachment is necessary like it was for PSVR 1. Which was like, that was half the battle in PSVR 1. Just getting set up was such a pain. You had to get the processor box set
my
up,
God.
connected to your PS4. You had to get like the camera set up. You had to like
friend
tangle
of mine
yourself
was
in like
telling
so
me-
many cables to
She-
like just use the thing.
She had a
You know?
PSVR setup that she had bought, like it came with the PS4 when she bought it from a friend, and she had tried to play on it, and she said it made her really motion sick. And I guess she had set the camera on top of the PS4, and the fan was shaking the camera just a
Oh,
little
no.
bit.
Oh, that's gross.
Oh my god, yeah, that would be so hard on you. I can't even imagine.
But yeah, like, so PSVR 1 had that really annoying processing box that had to be used. Like, it's just a USB-C connection to your PS5. That's all it is now. Granted, like, obviously it'd be great to be wireless. We're not quite there yet, but like, it's a heck of a lot better than like navigating through like the half dozen cables you needed just to connect to PSVR 1. So
Right.
yeah, and another thing, the controllers, they seem very, very sleek. They look
They look a lot
Nice,
like Quest
right.
controllers to me.
yeah, I mean, there was clearly a lot of inspiration there, right? But like the controllers have haptics, the headset itself has haptics, right? Like, and like the programmable trigger resistivity from the DualSense is there too. So like when you're like drawing a bow, for example, you can feel the tension. Like when you're, shooting a gun, you can feel the kick of the gun and like the click of
That's
the.
another reason I wonder if PSVR games are going to come to PC in any form, though, because
I think you would, if they came to PC, they would be like, the games themselves would be like PSVR 2 only. Like, so like, I think
Yeah.
PSVR 2 will come to PC, and then PC games will be available on PSVR 2 only because of the controllers and the haptics in the headset.
it's just
Because that's not like a
frustrating 'cause there's
universal
still-
feature.
Even with PSVR 2, there is still no zero compromises VR setup because the Valve Knuckles are gonna be better controllers than the PSVR. In my opinion, they're going to be better controllers.
What are the Valve Knuckles? I've
The
not
Valve
heard of these.
Knuckles have touch sensors, so they can track your fingers as you like open and close your hand.
I believe these controllers have that too.
Okay, then the PSVR
Which is
may be the best.
Really sick. Apparently, like they show like for some of the like the shooting, you just basically make like a gun with your fingers, and like you can like bang 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 like do the motion, and it'll like fire the gun in the game. So there is
Wait,
like
is there not just a trigger on it?
there is also a trigger on it,
Okay.
but like Like there is like motion, like finger motion detection and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like it's got me all excited. It's got like my interest in VR sort of like revitalized. Like this thing is coming out next year, and I'm definitely gonna try and get one like day one. And like I remember when I had the PSVR 1, one thing I really liked doing was just showing it to people, right? Like friends who don't necessarily even play video games, had maybe not even like heard of VR at that point, right? Like VR wasn't as much of a household name as it is today. And they put that thing on, and despite the low quality and the cumbersomeness and like the uncomfortableness of the headset, it was completely captivating, right? Like VR transports you to another place, in a way, like at a level of immersion that like a regular just like TV screen cannot do, right? And the fact that, you know, like this is so many leaps and bounds above the original PSVR. I'm very excited to just share this with people and see what they think, right? Because this, it's not like you're being inserted into like an old sort of like, you know, PS3 level maybe game, right? Like you're going to be inside of a PS5 game now. So like, and with all of the bells and whistles that entail that. So very excited to show this stuff off to, I guess, people that don't even play games, just to show them like, hey, this is what can happen now.
Yeah, I'm interested what it's going to feel like to you and me, though, as like...
Yeah, obviously, like, yeah, like, to me, right, like, I have not done VR in a very long time.
Yeah,
I have not even touched my PSVR, so, like, it will be a leap for me as well. It's not like I've been messing around with, like, high-end Valve headsets or anything like that.
Yeah, I was, like, on the edge of buying an Index recently, and I kind of backed off.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm interested to see, like, because obviously once this thing comes out, right, like it'll light a fire under the competition too, right? Like I feel like the haptics, right, while they make sense and they're cool on the DualSense, for VR it's almost a given, right? Because like that level of immersion when you're inside of the game, if there's another sense being added onto that, like the tactile nature of like interacting with objects and stuff like that, that'll do so much to even further level up the immersion. I don't know. I feel like haptics in VR are going to become more of a common thing after this thing comes out.
Because Valve is also huge on haptics with their stuff. They've done a lot. I kind of want to get... The PSVR sounds maybe better. Yeah, definitely better because it has the foveated rendering. Part of me still kind of wants to get an Index because I have all the other Valve hardware.
Yeah, I mean, like
just as
PSVR is a no-brainer if you have a PS5.
Yeah.
Like, PSVR 2, like, is a no-brainer. If you have, like, a PC and no PS5, then it gets very, like, okay.
Yeah, because
the level of entry is very high, right? You'll have to... If you want to gamble on them releasing PC compatibility, that's fine, right? But if not, the investment is a PS5 and then a PSVR 2. Which, by the way, this thing, unless they really want to sell it at a loss, I can't see it being cheap. Yeah,
because the Valve Index is 1,000, I think, for the full setup. The PSVR could potentially be a little cheaper because I don't think it has no base stations, right? It's just a cable and the headset. Yeah, so it's probably... I still don't see it under 500.
Yeah, 500 seems to make sense. Like, they launched PSVR original for 400.
Could actually... My Lenovo Explorer was 300 or 400, I think. And while its specs are nowhere near as good, it's also been like 5 years.
Yeah.
So maybe
5 years is a long time.
400, yeah. But I don't know. And Lenovo also wasn't making anything on software sales for that thing, so they were definitely making a profit on that headset.
It's tough to know, right? Like, because like you don't see some of these features in other high-end headsets, so that makes you think that like maybe this is going to be the most expensive of all. But there's no way that can be true, right? Like, you can't sell $1,000 headset to a console audience. You just can't.
No, there's no way. It's, yeah.
So there's got to be a compromise somewhere. Yeah. The 500 or less, I feel like, has to be the price range. I mean, like, let's be real, not or less. It's going to be $400 or $500.
Yeah, I can't imagine. If they launch this thing for $300, like...
It's impossible. Like, I can't even see that happening.
It's interesting, though. It's tough. Well, I wanted to point out, you were saying that PlayStation needed to put out support for the PSVR 2. I don't believe that ever happened on PC for PSVR 1.
It did not. Right.
Fans did that, and I wouldn't be surprised if they managed to do it again.
But counterpoint, right? Like when PSVR released, PlayStation's relationship with PC is very different to how it is right now.
Yeah,
Like,
I wouldn't be surprised if a PSVR 2 is working on PC within months with a fan hack.
oh yeah, I'm sure like people will get it working, right?
Yeah.
But like official support, I wouldn't be surprised if that was also coming sooner rather than later. So a few other like small features, I guess, that I did not know of that I'm seeing listed on this page right now. So see-through view, which is kind of neat. So you can switch between like gameplay and actually like looking through your headset and actually seeing
headset you're gonna wear for any amount of time. I think
that's a huge feature that I haven't really thought of, because I think, you know, like with the PSVR 1, I just like take the headset off. But like it's cool that you can actually like not, you know, like presumably you could just like hit a button and like you can start seeing your surroundings, which is pretty neat.
It is disorienting though if you've never used it, because you do typically see your surroundings in 2D.
Oh no,
Yeah,
that's kind of why.
I don't think I'd like that.
Pass through, I love having pass through so I can know where I'm at in a space.
Yeah, but like if you try to reach for something on a table because it's 2-dimensional, you will have a very hard time.
I don't know.
Man.
The Quest pass through isn't actually that bad.
Yeah, but it's going to be 2-dimensional. Like typically it does not make a 3D image from the two cameras.
I think the Quest 2 has more cameras to make pass through a little more accurate.
Maybe, but I don't think so.
It just feels like I've never had a problem grabbing something through pass through.
Okay, well, I definitely have on my Lenovo Explorer because it's also in black and white.
Yeah, mine's in black and white, but I think it also uses IR sensors to like really kick up the depth perception angle.
Maybe.
So it also has like, okay, so it has like a broadcasting feature, but apparently like, so you can stream like the games you're playing in VR to Twitch or something, which is fine. But apparently if you have the PS5 camera, you can like broadcast yourself playing the new VR system and to the stream at the same time, which I guess is neat. It just sucks that's tied to like an attachment sold separately, but
well, nobody's going to use either of those anyway, because they're just
no one's going to use that.
They're just going to use their capture cards and everything.
Custom play areas. I believe the Index does this, or is it the Vive, where you can like define your play area?
Every PC VR headset has that.
Okay. So that's you can use the controllers.
You have to have that to do room scale VR. You have to be able to draw a safe space, because otherwise it's unsafe.
Okay, so the PSVR will also do that, which is neat. And cinematic mode, which was in the original PSVR, which is basically being able to like watch stuff or play games on a virtual screen, right? Like cast to your headset. And this time it supports up to 120 hertz doing that, which is kind of
interesting.
Neat, so.
Especially for people who don't have a high refresh rate TV. I'm curious on PS5, what's the performance loss going to be when you do that?
It's at 1080p 120 frames per second.
Okay, so you can't do 4K. Okay.
In the headset, no. On the console, yes. Presumably you could if the game supported it. But the system can support it. 4K 120.
Okay, but what is
the headset is 1080 120.
The headset's okay, so it's considerably lower resolution than the
for streaming. For streaming.
For
like when you play non-VR games in VR mode. That's 120.
Okay.
But the actual display I have it right here. The display resolution is 2000 by 2040 per eye.
I think that's the same as
that's very high. Yeah.
It's very high, yeah.
And HDR, which is pretty huge.
That is pretty huge. Is it OLED?
So, yes, OLED HDR.
But also what I would expect. So
yeah, I mean that's for VR especially, right? Like you need that really nice display. But yeah, no, I'm very much looking forward to it. I just hope that this gives VR the shot in the arm that I want it to.
I hope so. I would love social VR to kick off a little more too. I just
you've got to think that like social VR. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, I just did some research, and the Oculus Quest 2 uses IR cameras and then repurposes that into a depth.
Oh, that's cool.
Image. So it's not just like flat cameras; it's actually IR sensors.
Well, I don't think we'll know that about PSVR until it comes out, because they're not going to.
I hope it wouldn't be like 2D. That would be really.
If the PSVR
nauseating.
Has in and out tracking, it's probably using IR sensors or what's the term?
Inside out tracking.
Inside out tracking. Then it probably is using IR sensors to track the controllers.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I guess we'll see. And I'll definitely have, like, I guess, a review for the show or whatever, because I'll be getting this thing and playing the crap out of it. And another, I guess, huge thing for people like me, right? Like, I tend to get pretty easily motion sick in VR. Granted, like, the most I played VR was PSVR, which is, like, a pretty low-end experience at this point, but, like, a lot of reports about people who got previously motion sick being totally fine with PSVR 2. So, I don't know if it's just the increased fidelity or, like, just a better sort of, like, experience in general.
Because it could also be that they've been forced to use VR a couple of times, and...
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, I suspect that the increased fidelity helps, probably, and, like, stable frame rates and everything.
Yeah.
And also, room scale VR, I bet the design is better, because there were a lot of PSVR games that had you kind of moving, like Astrobot, as much as I liked it. Like, it moved your head for you in some cases.
Right.
And that sucks. That's not very fun, whereas the PSVR 2 seems to be much more interested in room scale, which just doesn't make people sick typically, because there's not a lot of motion in the game that is not happening in real life.
Yeah, I mean, like, there will be room scale to an extent, right? Because you can draw out your, like, play area. It's just a question of, like, I guess how big that could actually be.
Yeah, it just... I mean, that's been the that's just how PC has done it typically, is that you draw out your room and you teleport if you can't walk. If you can't physically walk it, you would use, like, teleportation or something.
Right.
To save your stomach. So it could be a design thing more than anything else.
Early 2023 release date for this thing. So, yeah, I mean it's like almost October already. It will be October when this episode comes out.
Yep.
Or will it? I don't know. I might just edit it and throw it out like in a couple days, but we'll see. Time is progressing too fast.
It will be at least late September. At
least, yes. Yeah, so any final thoughts on PSVR 2?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I really don't have any.
All right. So I guess we can get into what we've been playing, right, guys?
Yeah.
Let's see. I guess I can go first. So there are a lot of things cooking right now for me, right? So some things I want to talk about, some things I don't want to talk about. I guess one thing I can talk about right now is I have been playing the PS5 release of The Last of Us. So The Last of Us Part 1. So, it is a complete remake of that game, right? So, like, it is remade with PS5 assets, 4K resolution. There's a performance mode that runs at, like, 1800p, 60 frames per second, and that's what I'm playing it in, and that's the way to play it, in my opinion. They've done all sorts of things, like add lots of animations to the game, like modern animations, to make the facial capture and, like, all this sort of stuff more realistic, and it looks great. It's one of the best looking games I've ever played. I will say, previously we were led to believe that the gameplay elements from The Last of Us Part 2 would make their way into this game. I'm sad to report that is not the case. It's still very much The Last of Us 1, gameplay-wise. The only thing that has improved drastically, I might add, is the AI. They brought in the AI for, like, the clickers, the runners, and, like, just the regular human enemies from The Last of Us Part 2. So they're a lot more intelligent. They don't just, like, run at you. They, like, flank you intelligently. They call for their buddies if they spot you and stuff like that. So AI-wise, the game is much improved, but I am a little disappointed that you can't do all the crazy gameplay things you could do in Part 2, like diving and, like, crawling on the ground like Solid Snake, and, like, all those elements made The Last of Us Part 2 the best, probably tied with Metal Gear Solid 5, the best third-person gameplay I've ever experienced. But again, that is not the case in The Last of Us 1. But what I will say is that I am playing this game on Survivor difficulty for the first time, right? And after having beaten Part 2 on Survivor difficulty, which is the second hardest difficulty, by the way, right below Grounded, these games are meant to be played at a high difficulty, right? Like, it totally transforms the experience, right? Like, whereas previously, it's basically just, like, kind of like a dark Uncharted game, with, cutscenes and, like, then you fight your way through enemies and zombies and whatever and get to the next cutscene. At Survivor and, higher difficulties, it is an actual scramble for survival, right? Like, every single bullet actually counts, right? Like, you can't just unload your clip because you don't know the next time you'll find ammo. Like, every resource you craft is insanely valuable. And you actually, it ratchets up the tension, like, a lot. You have to play this like a survival game to make it through this game. Because otherwise, you will, if you play, like, run and gun style, like Uncharted, at these difficulties, you will just be finished, right? Like, you'll be out of ammo, you'll be out of resources, and if you're at a tough encounter without those things, you could presumably just get stuck there, right? Like, because you didn't, scavenge or plan ahead or whatever. So I'm really enjoying playing the game like that. And as far as the story goes, I think I've said on this show before, right? Like, I really liked the story to part 1, but I fell in love with the story to part 2. The more I play part 1 story, the more I think that it is, in fact, like, also a masterpiece. And I guess this is maybe colored by playing part 2, but especially just, if you, like, Joel and Ellie's relationship is the crux of this game. And if you buy into that, you're gonna really enjoy this game. But I totally get there are people that have not bought into it, and that's totally fine. But, like, I very much have bought into it. So, like, this game definitely tugs at my heartstrings, especially thinking about the events of part 2. But yeah, aside from that, like, it's very much just The Last of Us Part 1 in a prettier package with better animations, better AI, and all of the accessibility features from Part 2 as well have made it over to Part 1, so that's good. And I think that's about it. I'm, like 10 or so hours into it. Still, it's a fantastic game, and definitely really shines on the higher difficulties, like I said. So, like, if you have played The Last of Us 1 and found it a bit boring in the gameplay department, I highly implore you to check it out on harder difficulties, because it basically feels like a completely different game. It turns into a survival game, and it really feels tense when you play it. So that's pretty much it for me. How about
Survivor's the only way I ever played it.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was in high school, I had an ego. And
yeah. No, I played it. So when I was in high school and played it, or I must have graduated high school, actually. Yeah. Like, this was, like, maybe after high school, before college or something like that.
Because it came out in 2014, right?
No. It came out in 2013.
Okay, I was definitely.
I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I played it on normal, which obviously, like, now it is a mistake. Like, this game needs to be played on Survivor or Grounded. Same with Part 2. Part 2, when I played it the first time, I was smart enough to play it on Survivor, and it was a thrilling experience. So definitely encourage that. Okay, yeah. How about you, Connor?
I played a couple of games. I played like an hour of Slime Rancher 2 that was on Game Pass, and it sure is more Slime Rancher, I guess. I don't see myself playing any more of it until it's out of early access. I don't think. It's prettier than the first game. Like, it's gorgeous. The first game looked good, but it really just feels like the same game again, but with more slimes, which is probably what a lot of people wanted, but I expected a little more than that for some reason. So, I don't know. People really like it. It just didn't hook me this time. Maybe I'm just not in the mood, because I bounced off Slime Rancher 1 the first time as well. So, but other than that, I got Shovel Knight Dig on my Steam Deck, which is the new...
Yeah, so I heard about this. Is this like a full-fledged Shovel Knight game?
It's a Shovel Knight roguelike, and it's like... It's sort of a mobile game. Like, I think you can get it on Apple Arcade, and it definitely takes heavy inspiration from this game's lineage is interesting. It's made by Yacht Club Games and Nitrome, which I believe Nitrome used to make Flash games that were all really good. I don't really know their history that much, but Shovel Knight Dig is heavily inspired by a game I love called Downwell, which is heavily inspired by a game I also love called Spelunky. And the soft pitch for Downwell, I believe it was a Japanese developer who wanted a version of Spelunky he could play on his phone. So he made Downwell, which is kind of like Spelunky in that it's a roguelike, but you're constantly going down. There's not a lot of...
Yeah, you're just falling the whole time, right?
Not a lot
I've played this before.
Movement. Yeah. And Shovel Knight Dig also has a ton of vertical movement. It's mostly falling down, but it's less, like, dogmatic about it. There are horizontal rooms and stuff.
Okay, so this is not basic. This is not like Shovel Knight 2 or anything.
No,
like
it's
that.
not Shovel Knight 2.
Okay.
It actually takes place before Shovel Knight, I think. But it does.
Okay.
It is canon, I think, if you care about that. I think canon in the Shovel Knight universe is
Yeah,
kind of pointless.
I don't know if I care about that. I did see that this was like a big release.
It is. Yeah.
By God, why can't I remember their names?
Yacht Club Games.
Yacht Club Games.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, is this like a full-fledged like new Shovel Knight?
It kind of.
And I meant to like look into it, and I just forgot. I guess
it feels like there's at least as much content to it as there is in like any of the individual parts of Treasure Trove, but it's not Shovel Knight 2. It's a very different game. It controls pretty similarly, maybe a little clunkier, which is on purpose.
Yeah, I mean, like Shovel Knight is one of the best controlling games you can play. So.
Yeah, it's really, really fun though. I highly recommend it. I think it is like $25, which is a little steep for like an indie roguelike sometimes, but I picked it up. I've been playing it on my Steam Deck. I highly recommend, like, this is a game I would have probably recommended on Switch if I didn't have a Steam Deck, because I don't think your experience will be compromised at all, and it is definitely designed as a portable experience. That's what it feels like to me, is that this is a game that they wanted you to, like, play when you have 10 or 15 minutes, do a run, do a couple runs, whatever. And it's really fun like that. I've been sitting down and just doing run after run after run because that's how I play roguelikes, and I'm really having a good time with it. The skill ceiling is high. It does the smart thing that roguelikes do, where it at least it didn't say that it's doing this, but it felt like it was doing this. That as I got farther in the game, they introduced like harder rooms into the early areas so that I wasn't bored there, which is really smart. There are a couple of permanent upgrades, but they're not. It still feels like it's closer to the like end of the spectrum than the light end of the spectrum. You're not like getting permanent health upgrades or anything. It's like there are certain items that follow you, and you can increase the number of those that you can have. And there are like you can unlock upgrades that will appear in the dungeons now, but you don't like get them at the start. You have to find them still. And I am like in favor of all that. I think that's fun. It's just a good game, and the story seems like enough that I care about it, but like not enough that it takes away from the fact that I'm like dying over and over. It's not like distracting. It's a pretty good game. I would recommend it.
This kind of like came out of nowhere, right? Like this wasn't previously announced. Yacht Club just sort of like put it out there.
No, this
right?
was previously announced. I knew this.
Okay, it totally flew under my radar. It did not
get like a ton of advertising, I don't think. Really, I just don't think Yacht Club bothers with that anymore because they have like so much goodwill. But I don't think there's a ton of people playing it, which is kind of weird. I'm like top 4,000 on the leaderboards globally on Steam, which seems high to me because I haven't even beaten it yet. I did buy it day one, though.
I don't know, like, being a roguelike, I feel like automatically turns a lot of people off, unfortunately. So
it does have shortcuts and stuff, just like Spelunky does, too. So, like, you can get to the end of the game without having to play it from the beginning. You just have to take the shortcuts. Nice. Like, shortcuts is in there's a guy you can talk to who will start you at a lower level than the beginning. So it's really fun though. The bosses are really hard. I think the room to room gameplay like doesn't feel super hard to me, but it is fun. And there are like little like kind of quick puzzles that you have to do because like sometimes the ground is breaking beneath you and you have to think fast. And those are really fun. There's like every floor has 3 gears you need to find by the end, and you get an item if you do that, an item, or you can refill your health. And those are usually like time sensitive because they can be destroyed. And it just has a lot of really smart design that's just fun. And I'm having a good time with it.
Nice. Yeah, I think I need to like check out some gameplay because I'm still having a difficult time just visualizing how this thing plays.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, you definitely just need to watch somebody play it. I'm surprised Northern Lion hasn't played it yet. I think he will because it's a roguelike.
Yeah.
And it's similar to Spelunky, honestly. Because it did like... It doesn't feel the way I expected it to feel when I was like watching trailers and stuff. The trailers made it feel like it was kind of like nonstop action, like constantly falling and stuff, sort of like Downwell. And it's not. You do have to keep moving the whole time. There is a mechanic that will make you move quickly if you're going really slow, but I never really feel rushed. And it doesn't have the Downwell problem where you're like falling so fast that you like can't see what's going on below you. Yeah. It's not a game that you play portrait. It is landscape. So they can't just drop you down a really long corridor. It would feel bad for them to do that. And the camera's good. So
interesting. Yeah, I'll look into it. Can't commit to buy it yet, but I'll look into it.
Yeah, I think that's fair because it is something that I don't think is for everybody. It is for people that like roguelikes. You don't have to be like a huge roguelike fan because I think there's enough there for everyone. But if you don't like roguelikes,
Yeah.
you will not like this game.
I mean, just by virtue of it being a Yacht Club game, I have to at least
Yeah,
look
gotta
into
give it a look. I never played Pocket Dungeon though. I never even looked at it.
Neither did I.
It felt like
I might have like
mobile game,
watched like
'cause
a
it's
stream or
literally
something.
called
Yeah,
Pocket Dungeon, but it didn't release to phones, to my knowledge, or at least it didn't come to Android.
I don't know, but their new game that they're working on looks pretty sick. The one that
The Game Boy Color looking one.
the Game Boy Color looking one.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that
forget what it
does
was
look
called.
good.
Yeah.
But that's all I got.
All right, Mike.
All right. Okay. So, has anyone heard about Trombone Champ?
I have. Yes.
I if anyone knows me, this would be a game that rolled right up my alley.
Yeah, that like just by like pure comedy, on a pure comedy basis, I've not like seen a game that is that inherently funny in a long time.
I bought it purely for the fact that it had something to do with a trombone. I didn't even care. It was worth every penny.
Yeah, think Guitar Hero, but trombone.
Trombone.
But like I love that it's just like, so I haven't played this yet, but I've only like seen people play it, Northern Line specifically. But like it's hilarious how like it's basically I almost feel like it's impossible to like 100% every song. Cause like the way the movements are required, like you have to like time the exact like when the note starts, and it has to be in the right position, right? Like the slide of the trombone. And like even if it's slightly off, you get this like hilarious like off-tone sound that just like it just kind of takes you off kilter, and it's really goofy. And then like the character starts sweating, and it's just really funny. I guess that's the best way to put it. Yeah,
It's a goofy fun game. I love it so much.
How much was it?
$15.
Okay.
okay.
Well, so my problem is if it was $5, that would be within like prank purchase territory for me.
It is, to explain Trombone Champ, it is the most trombone game to have ever tromboned. Like, as a trombone player, yes, that is how trombone is.
Oh, okay. So you've actually played trombone, so you have some
I played trombone
context
for like 13 plus years.
I just don't know that I would have a good time with it if I were to actually buy it, but I think it would be something that would be funny to buy for my friends.
Yeah, I mean, it just sort of makes me laugh. I just think it's goofy.
I cackle like a madman. It's so self-aware and so introspective on trombone.
Notably, you can play it with gyro controls on the Steam Deck.
Yeah, I watched...
Oh, man.
I this is completely... I still watched someone play it with a sex toy. Yeah. I think we've peaked.
Yeah, culture's done. We did it.
We have peaked as a culture. Someone has done it. I love it so much.
Have you done any of the crazy hard songs yet?
Oh, I think I started with some of the hard songs.
Have you been streaming it?
I haven't streamed it yet. I've been playing it off stream.
Okay.
That's a great streaming game.
It is
I
very
feel like.
funny, yeah. Speaking as a viewer, not a streamer.
Yeah, as far as a streamer, it's I cackle like a madman every time I play it. That first boot up had me cackling. So I mean, it already gets my A+.
Yeah, it's a fun game, funny game rather.
Funny game, 10 out of 10.
Funny game.
Should buy.
You got anything else, Mike?
I have another game that finally came out.
Well, okay, so let me go, and then you can go, because I have one more as well. So I've also been playing the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 beta, multiplayer beta, and so obviously Call of Duty kind of icky right now, right? Like Vanguard was kind of a flop. I mean, like a flop in Call of Duty terms, right? Like Elden Ring has outsold Vanguard, which is crazy to think that Elden Ring could outsell a Call of Duty game, but it happened. But like Call of Duty hasn't really been in good standing for a little bit, right? And a lot of people were banking on Modern Warfare 2 to sort of bring Call of Duty back, right? Because Modern Warfare, like the 2019 version, was pretty, I guess, highly regarded, like multiplayer wise. So I gave this a spin and I played it, and let me tell you, I actually quite like it. there are a lot of the kind of like, it says modern warfare, right? But there are like weapons in this game that I question, like, is this really modern, or is this like, 20, 30 years in the future? They're like,
it's a lot of near future stuff.
one of the grenades is like a drill charge that you can throw like through ceilings and through walls that like just
modern, yeah.
just drills through the wall and like cleaves your enemy to pieces. It's just like, okay. But I don't know, like the gunplay feels really arcadey and fast and tight, and the time to kill is low, and like it just feels very fast paced. Which is what I want out of a Call of Duty. And it's just fun to play online. So it has like a slew of modes, like obviously like team deathmatch and stuff, which is like 6v6, but it also has like ground war and invasion, which are like the big like 40 plus player modes, and they do a good job. Like, this is the closest I think Call of Duty has felt to a Battlefield game, right? Like when you play invasion or ground war or something like that.
I was about to mention that I had read that it felt like it was. I haven't played any, but I read that it was taking some from Battlefield's playbook. Yeah,
it definitely seems like it did do that. And I think it's better for it, right? Like, my preference, like, I guess I'm kind of boring, right? But, like, team deathmatch is what I usually play, right? But, like, the ground war and invasion modes were pretty neat, too, right? Like, it definitely felt like a large-scale conflict, like, on a giant map.
So, I have, like, maybe a pedantic question about it. How big was the download size?
So this was like the multiplayer beta, right? I think it was like 40 gigs or something like that. It wasn't
for a multiplayer beta. See, that's because it's like one or two maps, right? Like,
I feel like there were more than that, because like I think there's like 3 for like the 6v6 modes, and then there were a couple in like for the invasion and ground war. So there was. It was like a decent amount of variety for a beta, I think.
Call of Duty just seems to be refusing the trend recently, which is games getting smaller because of SSDs. And Call of Duty still seems to insist that they need 200 gigs of my drive. And I
wonder what the install size for this game is going to be when all is said and done. I bet that information is out there, because like this game actually comes out like October 28th, I believe. So we're pretty close.
I'm looking it up real quick.
Yeah,
the beta was apparently only 25 gigs for PlayStation.
Yeah, the beta, like I said, it was like 20, 30 gigs. The beta was pretty small.
Yeah.
But like the full game, yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess that information isn't out there yet, but
no.
Like, so I assume, like, I don't know, like, I assume this game will have a campaign, but I'm not 100% sure, right? Like, they haven't really talked about it. It might just be multiplayer, which I'm a big campaign fan, so I hope it has a campaign.
I do know that it will not be Steam Deck compatible. They have said that they have no interest in making their anti-cheat Steam Deck compatible.
Yeah. Okay.
Annoys me, and it's probably just going to be something I pedantically bring up a few times on the podcast. I was never going to play this game in the first place, but...
Yeah, I don't know. I think, for me, this one would be a fun one to play with some friends. So, I'm also very much... I don't want to say excited, but like I'm looking forward to Warzone 2 and what that might look like, because in its heyday, Warzone was super fun. Like, I remember playing that with some friends, and it was a blast. But then they made several updates, and it just turned to garbage.
It was fun, but it was, like I was saying earlier, it was like 200 gigs to have that on my PC. And
Warzone was like a separate install. I do see like a separate like menu option that's grayed out in the beta for Warzone. So hopefully Warzone will just be like packed into Modern Warfare 2, and I won't have to like download it separately.
I mean, I don't know. Even if it's a I would say 40 gigs is a reasonable amount for a game.
Yeah, I would agree with
40 to 60. If you're dipping into 100 territory, like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's bizarre. I think the largest game I have installed is Star Wars Battlefront 2, which is like over 110 gigs.
Yeah, it's insane.
Like, that game has no business being that large. I don't really understand, but yeah, like, I don't know, like, all the Call of Duty stuff comes back, like the modern Call of Duty stuff, like the operators and stuff. Like, I guess that's to sort of give it a little like I don't know. I don't want to say Overwatch flavor, but like, I don't know. Like, who really cares what your character looks like in a first-person shooter game? Although, I will say, one huge addition to this game is that you can actually play all of the multiplayer in third person now.
What?
So you can mix, like, you can toggle between first and third person and just like play however you want. Like, in-game, yeah. which is insane for a Call of Duty game.
That's terrible. I actually hate that because that was in PUBG, and the problem was if you ever played first person, you were putting yourself at a colossal disadvantage.
Yeah, I haven't tried third person yet, just because I prefer playing in third person or first person in an FPS, right?
Yeah.
But like, I hear that like people really dig the third person, like, and there are some like exclusive third person multiplayer modes, like third person mosh pit. But you can like in deathmatch or whatever, you can just play in third person.
I mean, like everybody who's good is going to be playing third person because you're just going to be able to see around corners and stuff that a first person player could not. Like,
and I think like if you like look into your sights or whatever, then it switches back to first person really quick, and then like like if you're just aiming with your gun, it's third person. But if you look down your sights, it's first person.
I don't really like that.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think it's cool that the option is there, but again, that didn't really attract me. I was mostly just into the first person.
Yeah, I mean, I would like games like Elder Scrolls and stuff to have a more robust third-person mode, but multiplayer games, I feel like everybody should be the same.
I mean, Call of Duty, of all games, having a third person is not something I would have predicted, but...
I mean, it does kind of open, like, there are people who just can't do first-person games, so at Call of Duty, as a mass-market product, it makes sense that it would want to appeal to those people, but it's still a strange decision to me.
Yeah, I agree. I think overall, though, I am glad it's there, because I do think a lot of people prefer that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Like, I think it's I don't want to call it a comeback necessarily, but I do think Modern Warfare 2 will easily outsell Vanguard. Right? Like, Modern Warfare 2 will probably be the highest selling game this year. It will probably overtake Elden Ring, even though I really don't want it to. Just by I think this beta is generating quite a bit of buzz, and like I think a lot of people who are waiting for this game as the quote unquote sort of return of Call of Duty have had their kind of their desire vindicated, right? Like I definitely feel like this is a Call of Duty game, unlike maybe Vanguard and maybe even like Black Ops Cold War before it felt. And don't get me wrong, like Black Ops Cold War, I think it was a Treyarch game. I actually really like the Treyarch Call of Duties, but I think that's an uncommon opinion, right? So this is Infinity Ward. This is like the big boy of the three Call of Duty devs. So yeah, if you're into Call of Duty, this is certainly one to get, I think. And I guess I'll probably pick it up around launch, maybe not directly at launch, but I'll pick it up and have some more like I guess final impressions then. Okay, Mike.
All right, so I talked about this game 6 months ago, somewhere in there. But Gundam Evolution finally launched.
You talked about this last week, I believe. You said you were going to be playing this. So
I said I'd be playing it. Did I say?
Yeah. I think you did. Yeah.
I had a release date. They had a release date last week, I think. Or no, it might be a weekend. I don't remember anymore. No, it came out the next day. But it is just as good as I remembered 6 months ago. 7 months. Whenever the beta was. Honestly,
so is this like a multiplayer Gundam game?
It's Gundam Overwatch.
Yeah, it's Gundam Overwatch.
Gundam Overwatch. Oh my!
Oh,
wow!
It's about as fun as Overwatch was at launch, which is a high bar.
That is a high bar. Yeah.
I'm just gonna play Gundam Evolution instead of Overwatch 2.
Yeah, I mean it's probably a better game, or at least more interesting.
It feels like a better game.
So like, okay, when you say so like, are you actually like a giant robot, like skyscraper sized robot running around, like?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty sick.
Yes, you are. Skyscraper-sized robots, and the maps are scaled to size.
That's pretty great.
So as you're running around, you can see like little stairways where a person would walk up to.
Are there any like 6 Degrees of Freedom like space maps? Because I know that was in the animes a little bit, the different Gundam anime, but
no, they don't have that. It's all ground maps.
You know, I'm a fiend for those, but
yeah, I don't know how they're going to do that.
Yeah,
but. The only complaint I have is the monetization system's kind of goofy.
Is it a free to play game?
It is a free to play game, but it's a free to play game. Your monetization system's gonna kind of be kind of weird. It's like $10 to unlock a new Gundam, but all the base Gundams are really good.
But can you unlock Gundams without paying?
Yeah, it's through. You get 1,000 credits through the battle, or 2,000 credits through the battle pass for free.
Okay. I'm kind of at the point where, like, if a game is free, its monetization can be as bad as they want. Like,
yeah.
Because, like, so many paid games do monetization, stuff like that now. That the ones that actually give me the game for free, I'm really just in no position to complain.
People are comparing it to Halo Infinite's, but largely the Battle Pass just gives you free cosmetics, or just cosmetics. The only complaint is that one of the more powerful Gundams is one of the locked ones at start, and you have to earn. But I mean, that can just be nerfed down. Other than that, the balance feels good. Gun tank is gun tank. Honestly, I never would have thought I'd enjoy playing an auto aim character in a game, in an FPS game.
So this is this isn't a battle royale, right? This is
this is a hero shooter.
Hero shooter, yeah, okay.
6v6 hero shooter, basically Overwatch at launch, but every character feels unique, and they all stick out very well. Like Gun Tank has auto aim. You just point in a direction, and the game does the rest of the work with hitting projectiles.
That seems broken, but I'm sure there's some sort of
he doesn't do a lot of damage, and he has an overheat mechanic. Imagine like Bastion from Overwatch, except he has an auto aim mechanic and he can't fire infinitely.
Okay, yeah.
No,
that's really cool. Surprisingly, and this is going to surprise a lot of people, I never was into Gundam as a kid.
I wasn't either.
But I saw the commercials. I remember seeing commercials for it all the time. I was like, yeah, giant robots the size of buildings fighting in space. That seems sick. I just never checked it out.
I think we were in a bad time for Gundam, Ahmed and Mike as well. Because I think the series that was on, it was either Cartoon Network
Toonami?
or Toonami when we were growing up, was one of the infamously not great Gundam series.
I mean, the big one for America was Gundam Wing.
Gundam Wing, yeah, I've definitely heard of that.
Is that the one with the guy who could catch bullets? Because that's the one I saw.
I think. I don't remember.
That sounds so anime.
I don't remember. I never watched it.
Yeah, it was just... But, and they had, the goo suits that they had to put on. I don't know.
Yeah, I have only watched Iron Blooded Orphans, so I only know who Barbatos is.
The one I saw as a kid, it watched more like a cartoon than an anime, is what I remember. But...
who knows?
And it was a little racist, maybe.
But, I think out of the group, since the beta, I kind of grew on to Turn A Gundam, and the fact that he can suplex people. Oh my god, it's so much fun to suplex a melee Gundam.
Suplex giant robots suplexing each other.
Yeah, he just, completely does a flip, suplexes a Gundam, and then they're stunned and you can headshot them.
Maybe I should switch from suplexing people in Rumbleverse to suplexing people in this Gundam
so
game.
Much fun. Yeah. He has this big old mustache, and he's so goofy looking, but he can just flip people. It's so much fun. None of the melee characters expect to get flipped and stunned into Headshot City. It's so funny.
Coming to the Gundam game, but I'm taking you to Grapidal City.
Exactly, yeah.
I think another one has a kick flip or something, but I don't know.
I mean, you're describing Rumbleverse with robots right now.
It's a lot. Honestly, it's a lot of fun. I'd recommend playing it. It doesn't come out in consoles till November, I think.
Aww.
Okay, that's pretty close.
Yeah, the PC launch was their first launch, and the console launch is coming out in end of November-ish.
Right on. I don't know. That it seems pretty sick.
I would recommend playing it though.
I'll try it out.
All right, Connor, do you have anything else?
No, I mean I already did too. I just Slime Rancher 2 was a short one.
Oh, right. Okay. Alrighty. In that case, that will do it for us this week. Thank you all for listening. You can follow us at @Podcast Game Talk on Twitter. Please rate, and review us on any podcast service you use, including Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, etc. Click the link in the description of this podcast to join our Discord and talk to us there. Thank you, Connor and Mike.
Yep. See you guys next week.
See you next week. Bye.